we are recording this. This will be available for view on our YouTube page, Algorithm TV, afterwards. As well, if you have an interest in having a specific link sent to you, we certainly can do that. This presentation is slated for an hour, so we're going to keep that to about an hour's time and length with some time for Q&A at the end. And if you're interested in these events, we host these frequently throughout the month. We'll have one again next week. So if you're interested, we most certainly can send you a link to further follow-up around in the next discussion. But we just look forward to building these out in ways that you may find helpful. And then lastly, there is a feedback form that will be submitted to you, presented to you at the end of this recording today. So we hope that you're able to provide some feedback, whether or not you liked it, what you didn't like and did like, and from there we can move forward in improving this offering. Thank you so much, and I'll go ahead and begin with the presentation here shortly. So, the Acumatica platform and overview. So, high level, the agenda for today is just giving a brief background to obviously the tools and solutions that the Acumatica platform provides, but we also want to start, because there's several new faces and companies on this webinar today, with a brief introduction of Algorithm, who we are, kind of what makes us unique as a business partner in the Acumatica space. So we'll start there. We'll go briefly into a background of the product, introducing the Acumatica platform and kind of the things that the major tenets of that solution, and then go right into the product demonstration and end with questions and answers. So a brief background on Algorithm. We are a technology partner founded in 1993, headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. We have a raft of, through the years, we just crossed our 25-year milestone. Through the years, we've supported and implemented several thousand customers, but importantly, in our DNA, we have expert degrees in any number of certifications, but the ERP, in terms of how we present it, is really foundational to manufacturing and distribution components of the solution. So we have CPAs, MBAs, network engineers, a host of development personnel, but uniquely positioned around businesses and manufacturers in the distribution and manufacturing space. And this is a quick scorecard of Algorithm up to this point. Again, crossed our 25th year just this year in business, so we appreciate all the customers that we've helped support over the years, and of which we have around 400 active customers that we support through project implementations, trainings, etc. We've completed thousands of projects, so that would be those would be full-on implementations in any iteration of the sort. And we have, between our team, cumulatively 200+ years of ERP and manufacturing and distribution experience. On the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see some of our satisfied customers, some logos you may be familiar with. Here's a picture of our team. So widely distributed, our team is throughout the continental United States. We have customers in about 33 states, but this is the core team that supports those efforts. And oftentimes, if you visit us here at our headquarters here in Dublin, Ohio, you'll see a lot of these friendly faces in the office, even our office dog, Rosie, there at the bottom. So switching gears here, we're going to dig into the Acumatica product. So I'll move through these interactions or animations on this slide. But these are the 4 pillars of the Acumatica product. So what you're presented with here, I'm kind of starting from top left and circling clockwise to the bottom left. Acumatica was founded as a true mobile and cloud solution, so born and bred for the cloud. Simply put, it relied upon, in its inception, was founded in 2008, and relied upon some technologies at the time that were pretty unique. The founder and CEO of Acumatica was from an enterprise and resource planning background in a product he launched called Parallels. So he had this vision of, as in 2008, companies were moving from on-premises, locally hosted internal solutions to the cloud and the internet, and the cloud was becoming a real powerful way to distribute and manage applications to scale. He bet on a few technologies that were kind of widely regarded as avant-garde at the time, but now are things that kind of table stakes within the technology industry. So like things like HTML5 and web services were core foundational to the product. Specializing as mentioned, the founder and CEO of Acumatica at the time has experience in building up any number of technology solutions, all specializing in the enterprise to mid-sized market. So Acumatica is really an extension of that vision and of that characterization of that user. There's a rapid shift from a business standpoint, leveraging the cloud, taking into account for the changing dimensions of how people were accessing data. In 2008, there was often this move from on-prem, locally hosted, to cloud distributed and mobile applications with the advent of the iPhone and iPad and those tools coming into play. And Acumatica was uniquely positioned to take advantage of that in a way that other ERPs, quite frankly, just have not been and were not at the time able to. And then the fourth characterization, or the fourth pillar of kind of the Acumatica architecture, is that it's distributed solely through partners, channel partners, such as Algorithm. So that gives them a unique advantage in being able to, in allowing Acumatica to be able to take kind of the design dollars that are distributed through the product and roll those back into the solution from a research and development standpoint, further improving the product and continually pushing forward the technology without inherent overhead of an internally hosted or internally grown sales and development group. So that all kind of translates into benefiting you as a customer and leveraging a solution that is not bloated from a hierarchical standpoint or from an architectural standpoint. These are two graphics call out, one on the left, just the ease with which and the simplicity with which the solution can be delivered to any number of devices. So moving the shell of the application from hardware-specific server systems to a cloud-architected solution provides an analogous way for you to have access to the product in any number of devices. So if you look here, you can see that the solution renders properly on an iPad, an iPhone, a desktop, laptop, or screen. It doesn't matter. It's really going to present you with the user, with the same user experience. And you'll see that today when Dave does his demonstration. There's a lot of flexibility in how the product can be viewed and how the data dimensions can be accessed. And then again, on the right, the piece of the slide talks to using the power of the cloud to be able to distribute and manage widely the Acumatica solution anywhere. So you're no longer relegated to being inside your company walls or behind your own internal firewall. You authenticate once to access the data, and then from there you're able to browse and perform your job functions wherever you may be. This goes into kind of a company background. It gives you a sense of the global scale of the Acumatica business solution. So founded 10 years ago, but it's got a global presence from the standpoint of where things are supported, developed, manufactured, and engineered. So it's the fastest growing cloud ERP in the world. Over 4,000 customers in 10 years, which is pretty incredible in their growth trajectory, which you'll see here shortly is just continuing to go up and to the right. So just from a organizational standpoint, headquarters are in Seattle, Washington. There's a level 2 support center here in a neighboring suburb of Columbus, Ohio. There's also an extension of that sales and support center in McLean, Virginia, as well as engineering in Russia and Canada, and then a regional headquarters in Singapore. From a customer standpoint, customers love Acumatica. Once you see the product, I think you'll get a quick sense as to why. But year over year, new customers have been created, and oftentimes the promoters of this product have allowed it to grow through pretty organically from year over year. So their customer conference that they host typically every January saw an entire new shift in the product, and with that was a whole new sense of excitement around Acumatica. But the customers that were there, I showed a slide from in their infancy when they started hosting their annual event. that they had enough customers to fill like kind of a half-sized room. And last year there was an entire solution center with customers and ISVs, and just the energy around the product is really exciting to see the growth trajectory over the last few years. Here's a quick glance at some logos that are using the Acumatica platform as their ERP. Some logos you may recognize, some you don't, but really what this shows is the breadth of the offering and the ability for it to flex to meet the demands of different businesses. So you're not only seeing here service-oriented businesses, but you're also seeing wholesale and distribution, retail and e-commerce, and any number of other retail or software technology or biomedical companies using the product. So there really is no one customer code that this fits into. It's really a solution that can scale and grow. And this speaks to, again, as that first initial Acumatica slide pointed out, the foundations of web services are built into the backbone of Acumatica. So architecting integrations between some of these best-of-breed cloud utilities, which are represented here on this slide, is out of the box. So you're not going through a long project to implement integration to something, for example, like Avalara for sales tax automation. Acumatica out the box has a what they call ISV relationship, or independent software vendor relationship, with Avalara. So there's a turnkey implementation to integrate sales and use tax data into the Acumatica umbrella. Same thing for Salesforce from a CRM perspective, or DocuSign from a document management perspective. I'm going to quickly close with some awards and recognition. Acumatica, again, not only the fastest growing cloud ERP, but widely regarded as the most awarded ERP, specifically for the cloud. So it's won any number of technical awards. The CODI award specifically is regarded as kind of the gold standard of technology, and Acumatica for the last 2 years has won that. There's a quote here from PC Magazine. With easy to follow navigation, robust reporting, and unusual pricing model, Acumatica software is a good choice for growing small to mid-size enterprises. So obviously to get a ERP to be regarded in that way is pretty unique, and I think you'll see once you see the demo here why some of that information some of those superlatives are being thrown around the product. Again, analyst recognition, so widely regarded. In the analyst community here, you've got Gartner here. It's 12 appearances as a thought leader and trender in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. You've got Nucleus Research has named Acumatica as an innovative solution provider for the last 2 years. So all upending the kind of confidence that the industry has in this solution as being a true paradigm shift in the enterprise and resource planning market. So that was a real brief background. I want to really let the product show for itself, so I don't want to kind of go through any other slides. So we'll go ahead and pass this over to Dave Dozer to provide you with a short solution or a short presentation of the application here.
Appreciate the introduction there, Carl. Again, my name is Dave Dozer. I've been with Algorithm for a couple of years now, but have been in the enterprise resource planning space for a little over 15 years, and have done things like consulting, quality testing, been the IT manager at a mid-sized business and responsible for the ERP systems, as well as I've also been the product manager for a larger ERP as well. So very excited to show you guys kind of around the Acumatica platform here, and I appreciate you guys spending a portion of your afternoon with us today. We're going to be pretty high level today, but just want to give everyone an idea of how the product works in general and some of the really exciting things that you're able to do with it that you really can't do with a traditional type of ERP. So the first thing you'll notice is I'm just running this in a Chrome browser window. So kind of hammering home the web-enabled part that Carl was referring to. It is a 100% web-enabled application, so I can run it in any browser on any device. Now, with that in mind, though, you're not necessarily locked into a software as a service model. So if you utilize the product, you can go all the way from just saying, hey, I want to sign up. You get a URL and you're off to the races. But let's say that you want a little more control. Maybe you want that in-house. You have a IT staff and you want to get your arms around that. The product can also be deployed either in a private cloud or hosted model. So maybe you want to go through Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services, and you manage the servers yourselves, but deploy it out in a hosted environment. Or conversely, you can also deploy it locally as well. So even though it's a web-enabled cloud-based solution, Acumatica still gives you that option to download the software, run it on your own servers internally, and maintain that. So you're not funneled into one specific method of utilizing the application as opposed to other methods. So with that in mind, we'll jump right in and start giving you the tour of what it can do for you. So in general, when a user first logs into Acumatica, they're going to have a dashboard. So a lot of applications have some sort of dashboarding dashboarding capabilities. Sometimes that's built in, sometimes it's third party, sometimes it's something you have to do for organization. And as we're looking at this is 100% built into Acumatica. So I can see some scorecard type of things up here at the top. So I can see wins and losses in regards to opportunities that are open in my sales funnel. I can see how my orders are trending deal size wise. And you can see right now I'm not doing too hot on profitability. And I can also see data visualizations. So we get into things like sales statistics, top customers, so seeing that in a graphical way as well. Now going back to what I said just a second ago about really the ease of use with this, if I want to change something on one of these dashboards, it's as simple as coming up here to the top and going into design mode, and then I have the ability to maneuver these pieces on the screen, so to speak. So let's say I don't like where this deal size is at. I can just drag and drop that over, and that's going to move aesthetically where these things fall on the or show up on my dashboard here. But let's say I want to add some additional information. So I can come down to the bottom, say add a new widget here, and then this gives me different types of visualizations that I can add to my dashboard. So you'll see things like I can add a chart, so that would be like my bar graph or pie chart that's on there. I can add a data table, so if I just want to see a list of records. I can embed outside web pages. I can even add in Power BI tiles, so that would be the Microsoft Power BI platform to be able to add pieces of information from that in. And as well as, the scorecards and trend KPIs like we were looking at the top of the dashboard there. Now the beauty with that too is basically anywhere in the application that you can do any sort of search or you see data listed, any of that data can be rendered here on the dashboard in a visual format. So you're not having to go and use any sort of third-party reporting tools to build out dashboards. It's all just native to the application. So if I click on design again here, that's going to get me out of design mode and back to my main dashboard here. Now these are tied to functional roles, but based on your security rights, you don't necessarily have to be locked into one particular dashboard or the other. So let's say, for instance, I have rights to see everything. I'll click on data views here, and I may want to, jump over to my controller dashboard, for instance. So that's going to be different types of information that are pertinent to the person in that controller role. So these dashboards can be everything from high-level roll-ups of information all the way down to more functional type of things like open sales orders, for instance, orders that need to ship today. anything that someone in a particular role needs to take action on. So I'm going to go back to my Sales Manager dashboard here. And the next thing I want to point out here is that this isn't just pretty pictures on the screen here. I have the ability then to drill into any of this information. Again, natively, I'm not setting up hyperlinks or anything like that. I can just click on any one of these tiles or any one of these charts and see the data that's making that information up. So let's say, for instance, I want to take a look at my wins here. So I'll click on my wins, and you'll see this gives me a listing of all the opportunities that are making up that KPI on the main screen there. So every piece of information, regardless of what area of the application it's coming from, whether it's CRM, finance, production, inventory, all of that can be rolled up, but is actionable from the dashboard there. So now that we're in this drill down screen, the next thing I'd like to take a look at is how easy you can maneuver these types of screens as well to get the information that you want back out of the system. So like I said, we're looking at a list of opportunities that have been completed and marked as won, and thusly would have turned into sales orders. But what I'm about to show you works on every single screen within the application, regardless of the type of data that you're looking at. So we see things here like opportunity ID, subject, the dollar amount, the stage of the opportunity when it was marked as won, and so on and so forth. But let's say, for instance, I want to see this laid out a little bit differently, or there's some information that I don't care about on here, things like that. I can click in my upper left-hand corner here, and this gives me a list of all the fields that are available to be shown on the left-hand side, and all the fields on the right that are being shown. So I can simply just pick one of the fields. So let's say I don't care about the closing date, move this over to the left, say OK, and you see there my closing date just disappeared. And this is on a user-by-user basis. Now I can do it as a role level, push it out to everyone, but from there users can still maneuver the data around to get it in a way that makes sense and is easy to use for them. I can even just take a field here at the top and drag and drop that around. So let's say I want to switch stage and status here. I'll just grab stage, drag this over, and that moves my columns for me. Again, works everywhere throughout the system like this. So that's great. I've got a list of data here, but maybe I want to find some information within this particular list. I can click on any of the column headings here, and this is going to give me, frankly, an Excel or Access-esque, for lack of a better term, way to sort the information in that particular column. So you'll see here I can switch how I'm sorting the dates. I can do things like, today, tomorrow, everything this week, or do a range of dates. And those filters are contextual to the information that's in that column. So if I come over here and click on stage, you'll notice I can just check off and on certain stages in my opportunities here. And those filters begin to build on themselves, so you can essentially create cascading filters, and then that gives you the ability to really narrow things down and see just the information that you want to be able to see. So if I turn off a certain field here, you'll see I've now got a little filter icon on there, so I know which fields are being filtered on, and I can click on that, just go back to select all, and now I don't have a filter applied there. So that's a really easy way to get information back out, but at the same time, let's say, for instance, that there's certain ways that you want to view that data consistently. So up here at the top, you'll see we've got won and lost as tabs. So I can click on lost and switch over and quickly see all of my lost opportunities out here. But let's say there's something that I've set up on the fly. I say, man, every day I'm having to come in here and create this filter, and then I clear it out, and then I create it, and so on. And it'd be great if I could just have this waiting for me and ready to go. Well, we can do that just by popping up to the top here and clicking on our filter settings. We can create our own filters and either make those available for everyone in the organization or make them private just for ourselves. So I'll click on a new filter, and I'm going to add a property. And let's say I just want to see all the opportunities that are owned by Mr. J. So, and I can do compound filters in here as well, so I can just keep adding different records. But I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we give it a name, and say OK. And when we say OK there, that adds another tab at the top of my screen here, and you'll see that's now filtered down to all of J's opportunities, regardless of if they're won or lost. And again, that's functionality that exists everywhere in the application. So on any screen, I can create these custom filters so that I can get the data lined up, not how Acumatica tells me that I need to see it, but how I need to see it to effectively do my job on a day-to-day basis. And then the final thing I'd like to point out on these screens as well is up here at the top, there is a little export to Excel. So that's just a handy thing if we need to share this information with someone external. That's going to take however I have my data filtered on here and just render that out to Excel, and then I can send that off via email or do whatever I want to with it. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard here. And the next sort of navigation piece that I'd like to look at is the workspaces. So the workspaces get a little more functional than the dashboards and don't have the visualizations, but they're really where you get into the nitty-gritty of interacting with day-to-day transactions. So you'll notice here on the left-hand side of my screen here, I've got things like payables, receivables, inventory, my bills and material, production order, and I can click on more here, and I've got a whole list of other workspaces. So obviously I'm not going to read off the list here, but you can see there's a very comprehensive list. And essentially workspaces are comparable to what a more traditional ERP system would refer to as modules. They're just logical groupings of reports and transactional data entry type of things that relate to a specific area. So for instance, if I go into my sales orders, I'm going to see a workspace here that lists out everything I can do with sales orders. Now what I'd like to point out is these are simply just the out-of-the-box workspaces. These can all be configured to specifically meet the needs of your functional areas. So maybe I don't want to call it sales orders. Maybe I want it to be, distribution channel, something like that. That's 100% configurable, and you can add and subtract menu items as you see fit. So that way it's 100% tailored to, the daily process flows that folks in your organization are following. This is just kind of the Acumatica stab at saying, here's the things that traditionally go into this particular area. And you'll notice at the top we have things like new sales order, new quote. These are just quick tiles that take you right into entering a transaction. Whereas, if I go to transactions and click on sales orders, that takes me into a list of all the sales orders that are out there in the system with those handy filters that we were looking at applied across the top there. So if I go back to my sales order screen here, we'll notice things like processes, reports, master data settings. The really great thing about the way the workspaces are laid out too is once you're familiar with a particular area, like sales orders, for instance, things like purchasing, inventory, all the other areas are going to be laid out in a very similar fashion. So you never switch over to a different module and you're surprised because a particular screen is buried 3 layers deep and you can't find that screen. Everything flows in a very similar workflow. So you're never like lost within the system. If it says transactions, that's where you're going to go to create new data. If it says profiles, that's going to be your master data things, so customers, items, bills of material, things like that. And then same thing with processes. And just kind of as an aside, as we look a little bit at some of the transactional data today, anything that you can do on a one-by-one basis, so for instance, creating shipments for orders, invoicing off of those shipments, anything that you can do on a one-by-one transactional basis, you can do in a bulk process as well. So you can eliminate a lot of data entry headaches and having to pull up a whole list of orders that have been shipped and billing those out and invoicing those. We can do all of that in mass. So again, here in a moment, we'll be looking at a sales order transaction and what that looks like flowing through the system. But general navigation-wise, the last thing I want us to take a look at is this search up here at the top. And it's kind of an unassuming search. I mean, it just looks like a search box on any other application. But this is really, for lack of a better term, it's the Google search of Acumatica. And what I mean by that is it's not just searching in a particular area of the application, but rather it's searching everything in the application. So let's say, for example, there's something like pricing that I don't do very often. And I know it's on one of those workspaces somewhere, but for the life of me, I can't remember my training. I haven't accessed it for 6 months or 12 months, and I need to find where that is within the menu. So I just type in what I'm looking for, and you'll notice here under menu items, it starts showing me menu picks that match what I'm typing in there. So I say, oh, okay, there's my sales prices, and it's under receivables there. So I can go right to that menu option and to my pricing sheet. So you find over time, a lot of times users will even not necessarily, use their workspaces even, but they'll just like key in the places that they go to a lot and use that. But it's not just searching on the menus too, it's searching on data within the application as well. And apologize here, my mouse seems to have freaked out on me for a second. Okay, sorry about that. I can also search information within the system. So let's say a customer calls up and all they have is their PO number. So in a lot of traditional systems, I'd have to, say, okay, well, let's find your customer account, pull up your customer account, look for that particular transaction. But if they can give me their PO number, and in this case it's PO number 123, I can go over to transactions and profiles, and look, there's the sales order that PO number 123 was on. I can also look up a customer from here just by their name. So let's say my bartending school calls up, and this starts to give me every transaction associated with the USA bartending school here. So it's searching everything in the system and finding that for you. And finally, let's say that the customer's name has changed and I can't for the life of me find them anywhere, and I'm trying to look up their information, but I say, okay, well, give me your phone number. So I can take just their phone number, and then that gives me both contacts and customers that have that phone number. So I can quickly and easily find every single piece of information that's in the application there. So now that we've spent some time, just going through how to get around the application, let's look at an actual transaction. So we're going to show just a small portion of the CRM and putting in an opportunity. So a customer or a prospect is called up and they're interested in buying a product, but not all the way ready to be quoted or to have a sales order generated. So I can come down here, and you'll see on my dashboard here I've got unassigned opportunities. Well, I can actually create a new opportunity right from here. So that's going back to the whole ease of use and having what you need where you need it. Now, for the sake of the demonstration today, we don't have a ton of time, so I'm not going to go through every single field on here. But I'm going to go in and start typing in my bartend account. And you'll see the kind of IntelliSense type ahead there. So it's going to start looking for information that matches what I'm typing into any field within the application. So I can pick that, and then I'm going to give this a stage of, it's all the way up into the negotiation stage. And any information we see on here is all user definable to meet your particular processes. So subject-wise, I'm going to say, wants to buy some computers. And this is another really great integration point within the Acumatica framework is, a lot of times within even a single ERP application, there's sort of silos of data and information between different areas of the application. But in this case, I'm putting an opportunity in. So I can actually jump over to products here. I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick. So I can add the stock products to this opportunity. So let's say, for instance, they want to buy this laptop here. And I just happen to know the ID off the top of my head. And say, well, how much would it cost for one? So I'll put one in there and see, okay, well, that's $500. Well, we really want all our, road salespeople to get new laptops. So what if I buy 5 of them? Put my 5 quantity in. You'll see, so now I've got a price break based on buying 5. And that's coming through all the way to the CRM module from the special pricing that I have set up on this. The other really great thing, too, is I can start capturing information that's not even necessarily what you consider transactional type of information, but that's supplemental type of information. And that's going to be under my activities here. And pervasively throughout the system on any type of transactions, so sales orders, production orders, anything like that, I have the ability to add activities to those transactions. So I start capturing the interactions I have with outside people, internal people that relate to that particular transaction. So for instance, I can add a phone call that I made to this person and capture the notes about that phone call right here in a quick kind of typed up view. I can also add an email. So let's say I add an email to this. So what this allows me to do is this is integrating with my email system. So I could send a follow-up email about this opportunity and have this automatically send through Acumatica and be tied right back to this particular opportunity. So let's say follow up again. Any news? So I can send this right from here. So it sends out that email, and then you'll notice on the activities here, it logs that email along with that phone call that we made. So again, you can start to see where these interactions and transactions start to intersect, and you build this whole sort of window into everything that's going on with the business. And that same functionality exists in every other area, not just in the opportunities here. So let's say finally you've had some back and forth and they're going to sign off, and maybe you've sent a spec sheet or some sort of notification that they sign off on, and I want to link that file up to this opportunity as well. So I can come out and I've got my sample PDF here, so maybe that's something they sent back to me. I can simply drag this file and drag and drop it onto the screen here. And I don't know if you guys caught it, but up here at the top, you'll see now my files say 1, So if I open up files, it automatically links that PDF that I just uploaded to this opportunity. So I've now taken external documentation, just dragged and dropped it onto the screen, and it knows to link up to this transaction within the system. So it's really cool stuff there. And then, so let's say they've totally signed off, and we're all ready to go with creating the order. So at this point, I can come and I'm going to mark this as, let's say we want it, and I'm going to save it. So now if I come under my actions here, and this actions tab is very important all the way throughout Acumatica, because anytime you're on a transaction screen, you're going to have an actions drop down up there at the top that allows you to flow into and initiate the next logical transaction or transactions in that process. And again, that's something that can be a manual process, so you want someone to look at it, review it, and then take the next step, or that can be done in a bulk process as well. So if I said, okay, I want to take every opportunity that's been won and create sales orders off of that, you have the ability to do that as well. So, it's I wouldn't even use the word integration. It's just a logical, easy to use process flow from activity to activity. So I can click on create sales order here. And it asks me a couple things like, do I want to recalc prices and things like that, and I'm not going to mess with that right now. So I can say okay, and that's going to create my sales order for me. Now I can still make changes on this sales order at this point, but it's copied all the appropriate information from my opportunity all the way over to the sales order. So if I drop down into the bottom section here, under my lines, you'll see it copied my computer over. I can still add additional items to, to this order if I want to. I could delete this, I could add a new item, do all those sort of things. But a couple things I want to call out specifically on the sales order process though. While I have this line selected, you notice here at the bottom, it shows me what I have on hand, what I have available, so I can quickly see during the order entry process, if I'm going to be able to fulfill this order. I can also come up and see a more detailed inventory summary of this item as well, so I can quickly see by both warehouse and both location. So location being a bin or a spot within the larger warehouse where this item is stocked, how many I have available and available to ship at each one of those warehouses and within those stocking locations. So, if I don't have stock at the location I'm at, I have the ability then to go look at, let's say my California location and see if I can maybe pull it from there. So, all this information and data just right at my fingertips. And another great feature on the sales order entry side I like to call out, and there's these sort of little helpful pieces all the way through the application, is this add stock item. So what this allows me to do too is you'll notice this gives me some parameters at the top. So let's say a customer just called in and I'm creating the sales order. I can say, oh, well, give me items just sold since a certain date, and we see they like to buy computers. But this also lets me, if they've bought a certain item within the last 6 months, I could set that date there and say, oh, well, do you maybe need more of X, Y, and Z, or you bought a laptop 2 years ago, do you maybe need to upgrade it? So it gives you a lot of information to help with upsell type of opportunities, just in the example of if you're talking to this customer right on the phone. Now, the other thing I'd like to look at as well is I'm going to jump all the way over to shipping settings here. And we have standard integrations with UPS, FedEx, and USPS. So let's say I want to give a freight quote right as I'm talking to the customer. I can click on the shop for rates right here. And I can say I want to add some packages, and you can also set up the packaging at the item master level. So if this laptop always ships in a standard box, we can make that happen as well. So I'm going to add a package though, and I'm going to say these are going to ship in a large box, and we're going to ship these guys out from our wholesale warehouse. And the weight of this is going to be 10 pounds for my 5 laptops. So I can come up here to the top and say refresh rates, and this is actually going to go out then based on your UPS, FedEx settings and get those rates. So I can say, you know what, UPS ground is going to be the best rate for you here. If you can, wait the 7 days for it, then that's great. And I'll say we'll select that and say OK. And so that's going to write back that that shipping information to the sales order. So if I look over at my totals, it's got that $33.11 written into the freight cost. And then I can do things like mark that up a little bit as well, if I want to. So I'll go ahead and save this sales order here. And then let's say that the customer wants an order acknowledgement. I can come up and I can print that sales order acknowledgement. And I could, go through a traditional method of printing that out and stuffing it in the envelope. But I can also send this from right here. And you'll notice the same sort of box pops up that we saw earlier when we were having an email communication, and then I can actually send out this order acknowledgement right from the application here. So, and the really cool thing about that then is that automatically links up the file that we had on that, and you'll see it also creates an activity where I sent out that, that email. Now again, maybe I don't want to do that manually. I can come under Actions, and I can just say Email Sales Order, and it'll do that automatically for me without having any sort of user interface. Or I could even just have that on a schedule, so those would just automatically go out for me. Now, while we're here under the Actions tab that was mentioned earlier, we can take all sorts of intuitive actions right from this area. So if, and I apologize, we don't have time today to go deep into the manufacturing side of things, but for instance, if I was a manufacturer to order type of company, I could right here create the production order or the sales order without going through any sort of material requirements planning and make a one-for-one link between that order. I could create any purchase order for this if it was on back order and I needed to create a PO right away to get that fulfilled or to even drop ship it. So a lot of different intuitive type of actions that I can take right from this area here. But I'm going to take it to the next kind of logical step in the process, and I'm going to go ahead and create a shipment. So we have it in stock. We're going to go ahead and get it shipped out. So I'll say OK. Again, this is something that could be done as a process. So this is going to create a shipment for me, copying in the items. If I needed to add additional orders to this shipment, I would have the ability to do that. And I can come over then, and I'm going to go to Packages. You'll see that pulled over the package that we set up on the previous step in the sales order. So let's say that packaging is good. I say, OK, I'm going to confirm that I'm going to ship this. So I'm going to come up under my Actions, and I'm going to confirm my shipment. So we say, OK, this is boxed up. I want to send this out. Now you'll see when I hit that, because of the UPS integration and because I had selected UPS as my method of transportation, it automatically wrote back the tracking number for me. And then I can click over here and I've got my label that I can print out and slap on the package as well. So I don't necessarily have to run this through another outside application to to get my UPS or FedEx label. And customers are always calling saying, hey, where's my tracking number? And so that just saves a lot of time and energy, just having that tracking stored right there as part of the application. I'll apologize. It looks like my computer hung up on me again for a second here. There we go. So, and I'll point out that's not indicative of Acumatica. That's my machine probably needing to do a Windows update here. So we've now shipped it out. We have our tracking. We could, very easily send out our, we could email the shipment right from here. So we could send out the shipment notification, or that could be scheduled. And I can go ahead and prepare the invoice right from here. So taking us all the way through that logical workflow chain, all the way from, the CRM side to having an opportunity, all the way to billing for this order. I've got my invoice right here. It's as simple as saying, okay, I want to release this to be an open invoice. And we've walked, all the way through the step from start to finish very naturally, without even necessarily having to jump back and forth to different areas of the application. Or, we looked at the workspaces as well, and they're super handy and great, but because I'm the administrator and, showing each step of this, I can logically flow from one spot to the other. So it makes it very easy, very intuitive. And again, anything that we just did can also be done in a bulk process action, so you don't even necessarily have to bring up every single transaction. Now, the final thing I'd like to look at today, and then we'll save a couple minutes here at the end for questions, is, okay, great, we've got transactions in the system, so how do I get my information back out? And, a lot of systems have some sort of reporting tool, or if I can type right here. But a lot of times it's third party, it's Crystal, it's SQL Server reporting services, it's maybe some other type of third party tool that's embedded or added on. And you can obviously use those type of tools with Acumatica, but built in is what they refer to as the generic inquiry. And what this allows you to do is actually build out those data grids that we saw in the beginning of the presentation. And then that data can be used on dashboards. It can be used in workspaces. It can be used anywhere within the application. And it's as simple as, grabbing the area that you want the data to come from, picking, grab one I was doing some testing with earlier. Grabbing the fields that you want, so literally just picking from a drop down what fields you want to see. And then you can even do things like, have this become a bulk update. You can sort of use the reporting tool to be an entry point. You can do so many things with it just within the framework of the application, whereas a lot of other applications would require customization to be able to do that. So I can view my inquiry here, and you'll see it's just that standard data grid. So anything that you're putting into the system, you have the ability to build these grids and get back out of the system, and then, really kind of an ad hoc reporting tool, so to speak. And from there, I can even pivot down on the data within the application. So let's say I want to see by customer name my amount of sales here. And I'll just say sales totals and save this. So now I can view that pivot, and in just a couple seconds here, I've taken information from my Acumatica ERP system, and I've been able to, on an ad hoc basis, see all my totals by customer, and then I still have the same sort of filters that are available in other areas. So, let's say I want to see sorted by top to bottom. So here's my top customers. I want to filter down just on a specific type of customer. I have those same filters available too. So quickly and easily, I've been able to, take data, get it sorted, get it pivoted in a ad hoc type of fashion, and have it right at my fingertips there. So we're getting right close to our time here. I appreciate everyone spending time with us this afternoon. I know it's a lot of information. There's definitely areas of the application where we could spend 4 hours easily going into great detail on, but hopefully that gave everyone a feel for just, the overall usability and kind of natural experience that you have with Acumatica compared to some other products that are out there today. Again, accessible from anywhere, consistent, easy to use product. We're very excited to be a part of here. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Carl to wrap up here, and again, really appreciate your time today.
Great, and I want to make sure that we're able to, thank you, David, for showing that. That looked great. Answer any questions that participants on the call have. So I've put a message in the chat box for anybody who had a question to submit through that mechanism, and we've received not a great deal, but a few. So I'd like to see if you can take some of these real quick before we come to the end of our session here today. The one that's kind of most reoccurring came up was related to the functions that you showed today. Was that all out-of-the-box functionality in Acumatica, or were there some things that were kind of behind or more advanced versions of Acumatica that you showed?
No, everything was out of the box. Now, I alluded to some things like the production orders and creating production orders, bills of material. Those are all out of the box, but just to be clear, those features are part of the manufacturing edition. So the way Acumatica sells the product is there's different editions sort of verticalized to different specialties. So there's a distribution edition, a manufacturing edition, an e-commerce division, or edition.
Right.
Yeah, so what we're looking at today is the manufacturing edition, but there's nothing custom or third party that we showed today.
Great. Well, there was a great deal of interest. Everybody who joined stayed through the entirety of the presentation, so really, really greatly appreciate your time. Again, at the end of this, there will be a brief feedback form submitted to you digitally, so if you can please fill that out. We appreciate it. The webinar has been recorded, so we'll have this converted and posted to our YouTube page shortly, and we again appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. Have a great week.